When I told him this about his retirement plan, he started to sweat. And that's what he said. That's what he told me. In fact, he said, you're making me sweat, Josh, and I haven't sweated since I proposed to my wife. That's like funny, man. I was laughing. His wife was sitting right there. She goes, it's true. So I deal with a lot of just regular guys. Engineers, blue-collar guys, maintenance workers, HVAC guys, industrial HVAC guys, lots of software engineers, lots of electrical engineers and stuff, just guys who work with their hands. You know, a software engineer might not be a guy who's on the line, but he's still working with his hands, essentially. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these software engineers are basically blue-collar guys in a white collar, if that makes sense. Anyway, not all of them, I grant you, but this guy's is definitely blue-collar. He's been his whole life, man. Been his whole life. And so we crunched the numbers, and it came in initially at 10%. And I knew, right, because I've done this 1,000 million times, I knew he was double dipping on his expenditures. I could see that a mile away. And I said, how much do you guys spend? And his wife keeps a detailed analysis of it, and she said about $5,200 a month. I said, okay. And that included some rather big ticket items they had this past year. And that's okay. So I showed them what I was showing them in the software when they initially put it in, that we had them spending $8,000 a month. And the difference is they had everything all inclusive into the spending of about $5,200 a month. And I like to separate them because we have different inflation rates for real estate, different inflation rates for healthcare and whatnot. So I like to have the line item expenditures, and also gives you a better track of them as well. Now, with that said, the $5,200 a month included some big ticket items that aren't going to be normal, but I have to go back and add health insurance because I can't remember if they had health insurance as part of that fee or not, but I had a sneaky suspicion they're probably going to be spending more on health insurance once they're on Medicare than they do in their budget. So I added the health insurance, basically $500 a month per person once they're on Medicare. All right, so we're coming about $6,000 a month, give or take, for spending. A little bit of income tax, not much. Just not very much income tax because once they hit Social Security, the bulk of their income is Social Security, which means their income is basically tax free. And basically, once they hit RMDs, their RMDs are $20,000 a year. I mean, they're going to have $2,000 in income tax with RMDs. It's just not an issue. It's just not. And I have a sneaky suspicion. I even gave an extra $5,000 a year for a vacation goal as well. So just because they don't do much. I mean, that's literally what they told me. They said, yeah, for a vacation, we go across the state line to this ice cream shop in the state next door. I was laughing. Anyway, we'll call him Bob. I said, Bob, so and I'm only giving a 60-40 portfolio, which is only giving a 5.3% rate of return with, I think, a 10.5% standard deviation. They got no debt. They might need a car at some point, whatnot. Bob's they're both very mechanically inclined. I mean, hell, they did the drive. She helped to do the drywall on their house. They didn't do the HVAC, but they did everything else. Lay down the cement and all that. She comes from a family of contractors, so she knows a thing or two about how to swing her hammer. And she was saying, as a matter of fact, that when she was raised, I think she had two sisters plus her. She was, we had a doll in one hand and a hammer in the other because Daddy would put us to work. And I was just laughing, man. This is the way it is in America still. This is what happened to the Heartland. These are the Heartland people that got screwed. People in northern Maine, people in the Midwest and whatnot. They got screwed when all the manufacturing left to go to China. These are good people, and they just got screwed. There's just no two ways around that, and it sucks. And we need to bring it back, man. Anyway, long story short, so we're talking. I said we'll call him Bob. I said Bob, and we'll call her Sherry. Sherry, she hasn't really worked in terms of a W-2 job, but she's has a number of family in the region where they live, lots of interconnections there, and as such, she's always helped with her parents, her cousins, her aunts and whatnot, even grandkids and whatnot. This is just the way it should be, man. Just lots of family members run around that they're taken care of, and it's just this way it's supposed to be. Anyway, so Bob says, Josh, what if your numbers look great, we're not running out of money. We're, probably got you spending more than you're gonna anyway. But he goes, what if I cut out a year early? I said, let's run the numbers. I said, well, if you cut out a year early, you'll leave $918,000 downstream to your heirs as opposed to $1.1 million. So basically it'll cost you $200,000 of wealth you leave downstream if you cut out early. Excuse me. I said, is that okay? He goes, whoa. So we still have 100% probability of success? I said, yeah. I said, now look, I am not God. I can't guarantee you'll never run out of money because we're just using the numbers I put in. And the numbers I put in are quite conservative, but that's what we're showing. And he's like, oh. And he's like going like this with his hair, like kind of wiping his head off, like, I said, what's up, man? He goes, I'm sweating. And Sherry said, he hasn't sweated. And he goes, I haven't sweated since I proposed to Sherry 30 odd years ago. He goes, oh man. He goes, now I'm nervous. I said, I told him, I could tell everybody, I said, man, you're voluntarily employed. You can go whenever you want, man. Literally, you can go whenever you want. There's no other way around that. And what did he say? He goes, yeah, I had a friend from work who said, I'm working until I get that hell moment. And he said that, he goes, why are you working, Dusty? Dusty says, well, I just like to work. We're laborers, we're Christian. We know we got to work. We can't just idle. God doesn't like idle hands. The devil loves idle hands. God doesn't. So he has a friend that we'll call, Dusty. And Dusty said, yeah, I'll work until I get that, hell moment. Sorry, I'm yawning. But the hell, I said, what's that? He goes, hell. When he wakes up in the morning, his alarm goes off. He goes, hell, I don't feel like going to work. And that's when he retired. And that's when Dusty retired at 70 years old. He goes, hell. I call it voluntarily employed. I call it the 3-day rule. 3 days of people pissing you off back to back to back. Just get the hell out of Dodge. That's what I say. You got the 3-day rule. You call it the hell rule. Like, hell, I don't feel like doing this. I'm done. Anyway, he was like, what do I do? I did not expect this. I said, like I tell everybody, I said, dude, y'all built a house on New Hampshire granite. It's not built on sand. It's not. I mean, you did it. You did it because you don't spend a lot of money. You have the same woman, the same job, the same house. You drive the same vehicles. You're just not highfalutin. The problem in America is the media makes it seem like Americans are highfalutin because the media is run by highfalutin fools. Out of Boston to D.C. Corridor, the Cello, that's the Amtrak that goes from Boston to D.C. that Sniffy Joe Biden would take. And then the coastal elites. The vast majority of Americans aren't living like this, dude. They're just not. And so the highfalutin that you hear on social media, mostly from California, social elites, and then the New York, Boston, and all the way down to D.C., that corridor is just not what America is. We're not. Some people in, Franklin, Tennessee, yeah, absolutely, who are friggin' living, absolutely. Are there some people in we'll say Peoria, Illinois? Absolutely. Are the vast majority of Americans living like that? Just not. Anyway, so he's sweating. He goes, I don't know, what do I do? I said, just whatever you want to leave. It's okay. I said, look, that doesn't mean you just don't have to get a job. I mean, because people like to work. People like doing something successful. I said, you can get a job you can use your labor for money or not, but it's not like just gonna sit around picking your nose, watching stupid Fox News. You're not gonna do that. It's just not the way you're wired. Anyway, it just cracked me up. I get this all the time, and I always can tell. I said, it's a 10% probability of success. Oh my goodness! I said, I know what's going on. I can see this. You're double dipping your expenditures. Stop doing that, and when the reality is, you're going to be fine. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. I get a chuckle out of that. Bob and Sherry, legends, and they're kicking ass and taking names. Why can't you do the same? Well, you can. You can. All right, God bless.